Talk of the Rebbe from Yud Beis Tammuz Tafshin Yud 1950. Again, this is early years of Hiskashrus Fabringen. Sorry, not Yud Beis Tammuz. Test Tammuz Shabbos Parshas Chukas. Okay, so let's bring up the text. Okay, we could go through this over this week, and maybe Yud Beis Tammuz will learn next week. Despite this Yom Shabbos Issa V'Zohar, all the Zohar teaches us all the days of the week are blessed from Shabbos. Meaning, all the days following Shabbos. They draw energy from the Shabbos before it. This is one of the reasons. For the custom. The Torah, that the chassan, the groom, gets called up to the Torah before the wedding. We don't call up the chassan on a day that we read the Torah. Let's say the chassan were to get married on a Wednesday, so to get called up on the Monday. Specifically Shabbos, because Shabbos is an inclusive day. Wednesday has nothing to do with Monday. It's in the same week, but it's not. The Shabbos is an inclusive day. It energizes all the days of the week. So the chassan gets called up on the Shabbos before, so we could bless the day that the chassan is getting married. Now, footnote, the star over here in Chukas is going to tell us that this is an ofrufnish for Chaim Chanovish. Ofrufnish means the Shabbos, the chassan, Shabbos Chatan, they call it here, for the Chaim Chanovish. Okay, so the Rebbe says also like this. So this is, again, it's the 9th of Tammuz, which means it's the Shabbos of an ofruf, as well as the Shabbos that's blessing the holiday, the Chabad and universal holiday of the 12th and 13th of Tammuz. So the Rebbe says about Shabbos. So now it's Test Tammuz, is the Shabbos before Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz. The Sheminei Mizbarach, and therefore, like Shabbos includes and blesses and energizes all the days of the following week. That means it's blessing Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz. Therefore, therefore, the Rebbe says the Shabbos prior to Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz is receiving, drawing energy from the Shabbos before. So therefore, it's appropriate to start with the words of the Friedrich Rebbe. The Rebbe was going to repeat what the Friedrich Rebbe said on Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz the previous year, meaning Tafshin Test 1949. Again, Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz, when the previous Rebbe was released from prison, we learned the Sicha of Gimel Tammuz. And Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz, when the previous Rebbe was actually released from the total imprisonment, meaning including Kastrama, including the exile, also is the birthday of the Friedrich Rebbe. So what did the Friedrich Rebbe say a year before he passed away? Which means he passed away Yud Shvat. It's a year before. So when the Friedrich Rebbe spoke on Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz 1949. And this will connect what the Friedrich Rebbe said in 1949 with the Shabbos before, which is Parshas Chukas, V'gam b'kesher l'alila Torah v'yom Shabbos kodesh zeh Parshas Zu. There was connected, of course, with the uproop as well of this chassan, Chaim Chanovich. The Sicha Gimel Tammuz Eshtake, and the talk that Friedrich Rebbe spoke on the 13th of Tammuz the year before, again 1949. The Friedrich Rebbe spoke. He spoke about what does it mean to be alive. Chaim Aruchim, long life. Chaim Amitim, a real life or true life. Chaim Bli Hefsek, a life without any interruption, which means Chaim Nitzchim, everlasting life. Ubira Inyan Bavoid, and he explains what this means in our service of God. A person has to be alive on their own. The job of a person is to give life to others. Nidnar was men lept alain, he says in Yiddish, the Friedrich Rebbe said. Not only are we alone alive, nor men balept echen andere, we give life to others. U'misayim, and the Friedrich Rebbe finished. Chaim Amiti, what's true life, is Kedushah, is holiness. And Kedushah is Ein Sof, that's what's Chaim Nitzchim. Kedushah is everlasting. There's no end to holiness, and therefore it's an everlasting. So in life, in true life, which true life is, holy life, therefore it's everlasting. But Bagdama said the Rebbe wants to explain what the Friedrich Rebbe means. Everything is by divine providence. As the Baal Shem Tov taught, God will pull a wind from his treasure of winds. Kedei, in order legalgil Allah ikash, to roll a piece of hay or a leaf. So that leaf has to move from point A to point B. The Baal Shem Tov taught that God is going to, it doesn't just happen by chance or it is weird. God takes a special wind from his treasure of winds to move the piece of straw or the leaf from point A to point B. The Rebbe adds the Alter Rebbe add not just that it has to move from point A to point B, but how it moves from point A to point B. There's many ways a leaf can move. Someone can kick it. It could be via wind. Everything exactly, not just to get there, not the bottom line, but also how you get there. Means to say that there's the exact detail, divine providence, even on the lifeless things or things of vegetation, things of life, meaning animal kingdom. So surely something that's connected to humans definitely has God's hashgacha pratis. By the Jewish people, Shema Teres, they are the crown, Tiferes, the beauty of the whole creation of Klos Abriya. The Jewish people are. Malachs come even more so. Nasi Yisrael, when it comes to talking about a prince of the Jewish people, Shavai Tali Kol Inyanim, that in him everyone depends on receiving everything that happens in the world is dependent on the Nasi Adar. The Frierdiker Rebbe is the Nasi Adar. In our generation, of course, the Rebbe is the Nasi Adar. It says in this week's Parsha, Parshas Chukas, Shanasi hu hakoil, that the Nasi is everything. So the Frierdiker Rebbe spoke about everlasting life on Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz Tov Shin Tes, on his birthday and his days of redemption in 1949, 6 months or 8 months before his passing. He didn't speak about this idea in the earlier years. Tov Shin Ches, Tov Shin Zayin, 1948, 47. Lifnei Stalkusei B'Yud Shvat Tov Shin Yud, before he passed away. On the 10th of Shvat Tov Shin Yud, there's a reason why he spoke about Chaim Nitzchim, Chaim Amitim, Chaim Kedushah, holiness, life of holiness, life of truth, and everlasting life. The 12th of Tammuz is Yichag Geula, the Frierdiker Rebbe's redemption and redemption for Klal Yisrael before on the last Yud Beis Tammuz of his life. The Rebbe says in a note, a side note, that's not so side, that he told him, the Frierdiker Rebbe talks in detail about his imprisonment and release. The Frierdiker Rebbe was arrested on the 15th of Sivan, 1927, which is the Hebrews year. Tov Reish Pei Zayin, 5,687. So we're going into 50 years now, this year, 5,826. We're going into 50 years, 100 years since Yud Beis Tammuz, going to the 100th year. Tov Reish Pei Zayin to Tov Shin Pei Vav, we're entering into 100th year. And that year of Rosh Hashanah, Tov Reish Pei Zayin, 5,687, so which is 6 months or 8 months, 9 months before his arrest, before his arrest, so it's im Geret. It's again poetic Yiddish way of saying it spoke. Nistabra me'elov, like in Hebrew, it spoke. The Rebbe just kind of said something almost seemingly on its own. The Frierdiker Rebbe spoke that divine providence is on every single detail, even on things that are lifeless, growing vegetation and the animal kingdom. He didn't know that Frierdiker Rebbe said himself. Why did he speak about that subject in the middle of the Maimer? It seemed out of place. How a Rebbe exactly says the Maimer is not clear to us. But evidently there is some notes or some preparation. And he just put in this idea about the Baal Shem Tov talking about Shkach. He didn't know why. It had nothing to do with the subject at hand. But then he added later, after the arrest, had he not spoken about it, then Rosh Hashanah, again, Rosh Hashanah is the day with an inclusive day, like Shabbos is an inclusive day of the week, Rosh Hashanah is an inclusive day of the whole year. The whole year he draws about, a person draws energy from what happens in Rosh Hashanah, especially the verdict of Rosh Hashanah and Avodah of Rosh Hashanah, Frierdiker Rebbe himself included. So when he spoke about Hashgacha Pratis and Rosh Hashanah, it energized his ability to handle the arrest. When wollte es nicht retten, if you didn't speak about it, he said that if Rebbe said by himself, he doesn't know if he would have been able to survive the ordeal and the horrible and the horrific torture that he went through in the imprisonment. But when he reminded himself that he spoke about Hishkacha Pratis and everything's by divine and nothing's happening by chance, Hashem is watching over everything, it encouraged him and energized him to be able to get through this hardship. So too we have to assume. If the last holiday of redemption on his, which was his Yom Tif, you basically found, which is his Yom Tif, that the Rebbe was in this world. Last year that he's been talking to us, he had to warn, so to say, to teach us. Everything that's holiness is everlasting. And he explained in detail. Not to misunderstand what he's saying. That what's long life, true life, that has no end, no disconnect. The reason why the Friedrich Rebbe spoke about this, and the last year of his life, that a person shouldn't misunderstand and misinterpret what seems open to the eye, i.e., that the Friedrich Rebbe passed away. Because to tell us that the idea that the Friedrich Rebbe, so to say, is no longer here with us is not possible. We have to know and be certain that even after the Histalkus, there's an Histalkus, there's a passing, but the passing itself doesn't mean there's no, it's not a contradiction to everlasting life. It's a Nasi when it comes to the leader of the generation. And through him and still via him, he gives everlasting life to the generation. Okay? When we read these things, we see how the Rebbe prepared Chassidim in Tafshin Yud for Tafshin and Dalet for what happened after Gimel Tammuz. Therefore, everyone has to be alive, alone, to survive. Means you have to, this message that Friedrich Rebbe said is a call to all, at all times, including Garta, that true life is everlasting life, and true life is to make others alive. And therefore, it's not enough for us to be alive ourselves and say, no, it's nafshi itzalti, but we have to go out and make others alive. This idea, it's a divine province that the message of Chaim Nitzchin we find in this week's parsha, meaning Parshas Chukas. The Parshas and Shavuot Meduber Eidus Parah Adumah. This week's parsha talks about the red heifer. Shayadi Nasis Hatara. What happens? What do we do with the red heifer? We become pure. Mitumas Achei Chumor, from the most severe impurities. We could purify ourselves via the ashes of the red heifer, which is tumas meis, the impurity of death. That it's so impure. Shinis Karchamu Ponav Shamosh Moshe turned green, thinking, how is a person going to ever, once you get connected and attached, or it attaches itself to you, the impurity of death, how do you cleanse yourself from it? How could a person become purified from such an impurity? This is the chayk of Torah, Parah Adumah, that through the Parah Adumah you could go and you could purify yourself from the tumas meis, from the impurities of death. What does it mean spiritually? Tumas meis, what does it mean to be impure of death spiritually? Which means heder chayis. You feel lifeless in your life. You're alive, you can touch yourself, you can pinch yourself, but there's no chayis, there's no life in you. Moira almayim dematzev shinis alim hadvekis b'Hashem agrachayim. What does that mean? That your source of life that you should be alive with, which is godliness, has become concealed. Like it says, va'atem advek, and when you cleave to God, then you're alive. So but when you get disconnected, you're not feeling that connect. So it's like you're spiritually dead. How do you purify yourself from this? How do you become alive again? Belifel gilui hachayis, and how do you cleave to God and reveal the light? Why they chuka? So is chukas atara, through the chayk of Torah. Chayk is one of the mitzvahs that have no reason for it. And also chayk means something that's engraved. When you engrave something of Torah, you can become alive again. And Nasi is b'koyach Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of the generation can connect the person to the situation that they can become alive again. Like it says, the Parah Adumah that they're going to burn into ash and use the ash with the Mayim Chaim, with the live water and all the other components to make you alive again, has to be first brought to Moshe Rabbeinu. Always the red heifer will be called on Moshe's name. The cow that was made by Moshe, or that was burnt by Moshe in the desert, even though Elazar did it, but it was brought to Moshe. Means Moshe, the Nasi of the Dor, of the generation, has the power to take a Parah Adumah. Parah Gashmi, a physical cow. Parah Adumah, even not just a cow, but a red cow. What's the idea of red? That shows on severity. The heat, the koch, the passion, the gashmis v'chomis, the physicality and coarseness. Not just to elevate the cow itself, that it should no longer be coarse, it should turn into ash, it should be humbled. Even more than that, Moshe empowers when you take the ash of the red heifer, that the most severe impurities anywhere could become purified by the parah, which is what the Rebbe is alluding to. And not only should you be alive, but you make others alive. We know, Rashi brings down that they divided the ash into three parts. The first part leads only menu b'nei ha'ayirayis v'chalat shichem utar. It was put away for the people of the city. Anyone who needed purification, that was available for them. Chelik beis, the second portion, kohanim gedolim leparas acheres. It was used for the high priest to be used again, because you had to put in all the ash of all the red heifers when you burnt a new one. They used it to sanctify. And a third was put away for safekeeping. That it's not just that Moshe's ash makes people pure. Also from other cows that get burnt in the process of Parah Adumah. That happened after the time of Moshe. But in the condition is, how do you go about in Ezra's times? And it says that the right Rambam writes, the first Parah Adumah is Moshe, then Ezra, and then throughout the second base of English, the 10th one will be with Mashiach. But how could the others do it? Teisha paris, the 9 cows altogether. Do you have to take Moshe's cow, the ash? That's the only way the other high priests throughout history were able to turn the Parah Adumah into a powerful ash that could purify someone. Even when Mashiach comes, the 10th cow, Mashiach has to be done through Mashiach. We're going to find, because it's known where it is. We just personally don't know. But those who need to know where the ash of Moshe is. And when it's Mashiach has to come to Menu, and we're going to do the red heifer, we're going to take from that ash to make it possible for the red heifer to purify yourself. What's this meaning of our service? What is Moshe's effect on Klal Yisrael and Chassidim? The Moshe ben generation. He reveals our vitality, makes us alive again and connected again. It's a kol from each Jew, each Jew could reconnect themselves. Even if you reach the level where you're almost spiritually dead, emotionally and spiritually, in tumor of death. This continues even after Moshe. Every generation has their own parah, but it's connected to the koyach of Moshe. You take from Moshe's ash and you sanctify the ash that you're doing currently. Maybe we did one more sif. It's the one more sif. But yes, the Haisa, the Rebbe says we could add. Apimashkas begeres kodesh. It's brought down. Begeres kodesh of Tanya in the name of Zikunim. Al Moshe Rabbeinu, al Sham Sha'ach P'tirase. And after Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, his pashtes ha'arase b'chol dar v'dar l'shishim yivin shamas. Moshe's soul spreads out to the 600,000 general souls. Just like the sun shines and gives light to the stars. Even when it's dark, the sun is still there. But it's on the Chatzi Shein Shakadir Or, it's Mitachas. It's on the other side of the ground where the person is standing now. The sun is not there. It's on the other side of the galaxy there. Even though you don't see it, but through the stars you see the effect of the sun. Because the light of the stars, it's the stars drawing light, reflecting the light of the sun. Not only in the daytimes. It's not like the stars during the day charge, right? Like you charge your battery, you charge from the sun, and then when the sun sets, that now the light, the stars have light. And like even at night, where's it getting it from? Not because it's charged by day, it's the light, it's a reflection of the light of the sun. That's the point of it. When it comes to Moshe, Moshe should hold over there and the Moshe of every generation. Ad Moshe should be the reign until Moshe in our times, which is the Rebbe. There's still the light. Again, this is why these are important sichos to learn out. The light is still there. It's not that we once were connected to the Rebbe and therefore we were inspired, we were taught what to do now. We're still drawing energy from the Rebbe. Just like the stars are didn't draw energy when the sun was here, but they're drawing even in the night. They're they're reflecting the light of the sun. The light that we have from the stars is from the sun now. If you would be with the Rebbe now, you would see it. That the Rebbe is full of light as before, even more so. But even higher. Because maybe we don't see it. But we didn't go with him. And we stay in our place. We don't physically see it. Just like at night, you don't see the sun. But that doesn't change the fact. Nevertheless, even in such a situation, everyone's drawing energy from Moshe Rabbeinu. Through that, it enables us to be a source of light, like the stars, the source of light. Again, it's not that the Rebbe taught us that we now could go and influence the world. We're drawing energy now. When we give light, every person brings light to their space in the world, whether you're a rabbi of your community, a shliach, or an individual that's bringing light. Everyone has an obligation, if we can. It has to, and if we can, bring light to their space. And then as a chassid, it's not that you've taken light from somewhere. We've taken ideas from somewhere. Right now, you are a reflection of the light that's coming from the Rebbe. The light that's emanating from the Rebbe, that's shining in your space, is shining via you. We don't feel it possibly. We learned in the previous Sicha. Kedushah said, but the Rebbe Shab said, just because the horse is thinking about his animal feed, doesn't change the fact that what's happening is something greater. Like we learned about the three stages, the wagon driver, the tzaddikim that are talking about angels, and the horse. So we may be horses and we think it's about us. We don't realize that really doesn't change the fact that the reflection, that we are a reflection, therefore we're obligated to act as such. We find this also in the revealed parts of Torah. Everything has to be shown in the revealed parts of Torah. And again, what do we say? That how today, when the base of English is going to be standing soon, and how during the times of the base of English previously, were they able to purify a person from death? For Parah Adumah, even using the Parah Adumah, it wasn't because the Parah Adumah already became a thing. It's only because we had to use Moshe's ash, and you use that ash to sanctify and make it able for the ashes of the Parah Adumah that we're doing now to be effective. And we don't have Moshe's cow. We have other cows. That were done later. It's still drawing it because they put a little bit of ash in Moshe and therefore made it possible. And the energy of Moshe. Right, we'll finish this talk. And the next time we learn, we'll see how we're going to do it this week. Either we're going to just go through. We did half of it, so maybe we're going to do another day or two of this. I'll learn the mimer. I would like to learn the mimer in the Beis Tammuz as well.